Hello people, today I want to give you a little introduction to a theme for style-guide-driven development in Drupal 8 with a team called Guru. Short word about me, I love open source software and the Drupal community. With Drupal I work in freelance for about 8 years now and I'm focused in front-end development, but not only in Drupal. Drupal 8 brings a lot of nice new features for themers. I don't want to get into detail with this because you already started theming, but some things are really great and I think they're worth mentioning. That's especially the HTML5 mobile-first approach of Drupal 8, which makes your life as a themer much easier. You don't need to look for a lot of modules to make your code like HTML5 compatible. It's out of the box. I strongly recommend theming in a browser today because pixel-based designs are really outdated, and theming in a browser, in consequence, it requires you some reference. So the Guru theme contains a style guide, which is like one of the core features, which will enable you and your team a very good communication about what you're actually doing as a themer and how the graphican will be able to work and interact with you on the same base and not based on pixel designs. Guru theme is based on a lot of tools and concepts. Before we come to the practical part, I will give you a short introduction to the main concepts and tools, but you also find them documented in the readme. Gulp is the heart of the Guru theme. In the Gulp file, there are tasks defined, which makes development more easily. The Gulp default task will render all your files and start up a development server with browser sync. Thus, you should probably already know. What I want to add here is that there's like a very big difference using libsass compared to the very slow Ruby sass. So this theme is focused on speed of development. So I'm using libsass, which is just great. I also implemented the singularity grid system simply because I know it from Omega 4 and I was really happy with it. But you may just use a different grid system and replace it with your own. One of the core features is the style guide generation. I'm using KSS-node, which is developed with John Wilkins, the Zen themer in the Drupal community. Maybe a lot of people know him. And KSS-node kind of is like PHP doc for SCSS. If you look at the little section here on the SCSS header in comments, and more or less this is what is rendered out in CSS with it. So I add some markup, I add some descriptions, and this is what I will get. In order to get CSS organized, I'm using the SMAX methodology, which I really recommend. I think it's the most important book written about CSS in the last 5-6 years. And it's also like part of Drupal core. Basically, it defines a certain layers of where you put which CSS. The main things is happening in the component layer, and in this area you like kind of use object-oriented CSS, like define as slim as possible components for the actual content. Browser sync is a very nice feature. It starts up a local server where you can like live reload everything you do in different browsers at the same time. I'll show you a very short video about this.
If we had a class here and hit save, all browsers are reloaded. This works for CSS too. In this example, we are compiling Sass into CSS.
So what's happening here is very simple. You see a lot of browsers to the right side, and just changing one class or one CSS, it will change all connected browsers, and you can synchronously like scroll or like add form input. So it also helps you a lot with testing. So let's get started with something practical. I set up a basic Drupal 8 site using the default profile. I'm using Vagrant Drupal development, which is like a virtual machine. It's the reference for developing in Drupal. But for the theming, we need to compile stuff very fast. So we will compile our code outside the virtual machine, but Drupal itself is run inside the virtual machine. In order to get started, we will download the theme. Currently, we will use Git to clone it. I think it will be soon ready. I'm using the refactor release 8.1 branch. I think at the time this video will appear, the 8.1 release will be out in beta version. So you will not need to clone it, you can just download it. We're gonna clone it. If we want to use Drush to create a sub-theme, we need to enable the theme and set it as a default theme, otherwise the Drush command will not be available. So we enable theme and we will just make it the default theme by a simple command. You can also do it in the UI. And now we should be able to use a drush command implemented in Guru, which will generate a sub-theme. Here's the command, drush guru my theme. So depending on if you install the development process inside the virtual machine, you will need to have these tools available inside the machine. Or what I really recommend, because it's much faster, the file system connection to the virtual machine is kind of slow, even if you use NFS. In the README, I described a way to install everything within the virtual machine. I will use it outside. It means like it compiles on the Mac. You can use Homebrew to install the things we need. I have everything ready here. And says C. So if you don't know about these tools, check the READMEs. I wrote more about it there. So the dependencies are met. So go to the my theme and type npm install in order to download everything which is its theme defined in the package.json file, which is a lot of node modules we depend on. You will see some warnings using the current version because it's working with KSS 3.0, but in beta version, which missing some patches. They will come soon, and then the warnings will go. So I think till this theme is like ready in production state, KSS will be like 3.0 will be out. And then you will not get these strange, annoying problems here anymore, but they don't actually really disturb you. This process, there's like a folder generated called node modules, and you can, at any time of your development, you can just delete the node modules folder. You would also not commit it into Git. You can delete it and run npm install again, and it will be there again. If you switch the environment between virtual machine and local, which means my Mac, you will have to delete the node modules folder because there's a script connecting to the libsas, which is dependent on the operating system. So in the end, we get, I think, about like 500, 600 package dependencies installed, because every package in my package.json file has a lot of other dependencies. So, but basically you don't need to care too much about this. In the package.json file, all packages are installed locally. In order to run something which installed, you could use node modules gulp bin gulp to run gulp, or which I really recommend is the only global dependency we install is npm install npm run. So we'll have npm run. Now we can use npm run to install bower, which is some other dependencies. The SAS mixings are not available in npm, or they're not really working, and the grid system singularity and some other dependencies are there. So finally, we need to change some settings in the gulp file. It's just the first section which matters. At your local domain here, in the Drupal backend development, it's drupal8.dev. Might be different depending on your web server. The IP address might be localhost, or in this case, we have the default for Drupal backend. I'm using the IP address because it's faster while developing. You don't have to have the time for the DNS lookup. The only thing we need to change is my team, which we just created, which is the path to our team. One more dependency we shouldn't miss is the linked CSS module. Basically, Drupal will add, because of Internet Explorer something compatibility, it will add all CSS as imports. But in order to get browser sync working, we need a module called link CSS. It's a very simple module which is making these import rules into like links, but it's only active when you disable the performance, the JSS aggregation and the JavaScript aggregation. So we did download it and enabled it, disable JavaScript preprocessing, and we will disable CSS preprocessing. Finally, let's enable the theme and make it the default theme. Before we start the magic, we will have a look at our current setting now on the website, if this all worked out and if our new theme is also the default theme. So you see, my theme is the default theme. If we look to the front page, there's actually nothing happened. But seeing this checkbox menu, it's part of the responsive menu. And if it's not there, we should just run flush all caches. We can also do it in Drush. But our CSS is not compiled yet. So we will change to the theme folder and run gulp, npm run gulp, which will start up the default task, which first puts out a help and then starts a lot of other tasks. It compiles with the build task, it compiles everything we need to compile, and it will run a browser sync server and open our style guide and our default site in the web browser on localhost 3000 Okay, I need some more hard reload, which shows you our theme. There's some displaced blocks currently. I don't really know how to change the block layout while starting a theme. So the footer menu is in the header. Let's put it to the footer. And powered by Drupal can also be in the footer. After this, looks a bit cleaner. And the more interesting part is actually the style guide. You find it in the folder style guide under my team. It's generated. See, here's the my team folder, and we'll have a little run through what we did. Like the style guide is these HTML files you see here. There's an overview generated by a file in SCSS called homepage.md, so you can easily adapt the front page of your style guide. And it will be compiled by the task style guide, which renders all our CSS comments. You see them here. We have section comments, which just like define sections. They define references here. So this is the main leading point for the variable section. If you compare it here to the variables, you find this here, and then everything I filed under the variables, which is like colors, font sizes, and a lot of other variables. So the style guide is generated out of these comment blocks and our style guide template, which you find here. You can also change it. You can change the KSS file, SCSS file, to have your own look and feel for the style guide. It will also compile. And let's just like look at the style guide into the component section, where I define the view mode for the teaser. So look at the file, components, view mode, node, sensitive node. This is the view mode teaser. And I just want to see if my styles are working. So I give it a background of yellow. Now we check. There's something happening, and we have a yellow background. If I change the comment sections like this, I just remove one sentence, so it should also reload the page, which did already happen. You see it here in the source section, where you see the thing I removed is not there anymore. And if you look at the compile times, like for simple SCSS change, actually it's faster now than I can switch the browser window. It's like not even a second using the local environment. I try to make it. Okay, it's about a second. For SCSS changes, it will take a little bit longer. If we would run all this within the virtual machine, it will take a lot of more time, because Gulp is based on file system changes, and the file system in the virtual machine is kind of slow. But you could also do, especially if you're a Windows user and you have like a first computer, but not a real operating system. So you might use Vagrant to run it in there. So if you want to work within the Drupal Vagrant machine, I put a how to get started. There's some things you need to be aware. For example, you need to install Node.js in the virtual machine on Ubuntu, which is not yet available in a stable package, but it's kind of easy to do if you have a little bit of Unix experience. If we have a little look on the generated CSS, the main CSS, you see it's like not aggregated, and it has some source maps in the back. So if you're ready with development, you can run gulp production, which is a task. It runs the build task, but with a production environment. If you see in the gulp help, the build task can be run in different environments. So if we check now back to our CSS file, we have like everything in one file as tiny as possible. Same will happen with the CSS, with the JS. There's actually not much in by now. Just to give you a little idea about what is possible within the team, I set up like just some more browsers. Here's the iOS simulator. And if we change back this, you will see every side is changing, and they're scrolling synchronously. You may even like type in something. Actually, the iOS simulator is a little bit slow. And they are slow. So I don't think anything will happen now because I didn't configure any search. But you can work in parallel with a lot of different things. Summing up, there's little more to say. If you don't really like the Drupal default classes, you may just like switch the base theme variable in your mytheme.info.yml and switch the base theme to core, and then you don't have like the Drupal classes. It's a little bit like here. And if you don't know which is template it's for, have a look at this URI. It will tell you how to enable your development environment. There's more within Guru, but to come to an end, I will ask you to provide me feedback in the issue queue or on pull requests on GitHub, and have a lot of fun styling mobile first with the Drupal Guru team. Thank you for watching.